1979, at the United Nations, there was a group that came together that were interested in ending gender discrimination. And so they created this treaty, and the United States, under President Carter, was a big part of establishing the tenets of this treaty. And then it went through a process over many, many years of being adopted by various nations. And to date, 186 of the 193 member states have adopted it. Basically, it's been used to draft hundreds of laws to provide a backbone for women to stand up for their rights across the globe, basically. I've had the benefit of being at the United Nations and speaking with women who have realized the outcomes of CEDAW in the forms of land rights and inheritance rights, rights to economic equality, and rights to political voice. Of the 7 countries that have yet to ratify CEDAW, as you can see, the United States shares this distinction with Sudan, South Sudan, Tonga, Somalia, Palau. And so, despite the fact that there are more than 190 organizations in the United States that support CEDAW, the principles of CEDAW, CEDAW has never made it to the floor, for a full Senate vote. What's happened is that local counties and cities have taken it upon themselves to try to adopt anti-discrimination ordinances that reflect these values of the CEDAW principles. Ordinances shape policy, and that affects outcomes. Based upon the ordinance, there's programming, there are initiatives, as well as policy, and each of these work together to help to see the outcomes that we hope to accomplish with CEDAW. In terms of economics, as Carla was mentioning, we're really excited that we have the California Fair Pay Act. Just was signed in October, right? So that was a wonderful outcome, and we are appreciative of our senators for making that happen. But we know that economic injustice is not just about the paycheck, it's also about making sure that working conditions are equitable and that there's workplace policy. So San Francisco, after their CEDAW, we're going to kind of talk about San Francisco just because there's the most body of work around San Francisco. But San Francisco, after putting a CEDAW ordinance in place, they not only did they mandate economic equality, but they also responded with a family-friendly workplace ordinance. So they realized that without proper child care, one member of the family would fall out of the workplace. And that tends to disproportionately affect the women. However, they just wanted to ensure that there was a metric, there was a framework in place so that either parent might stay home and the work schedules could be adjusted. They had flex scheduling and put this policy in place to benefit the families. And another reason to consider CEDAW here locally is because we are disproportionately affected by domestic violence in this county. This graph shows 27 years, and you can see Santa Barbara and LA relatively flat and remaining unchanged. However, you can see that Ventura County, which is this top blue line, it's double the rate of the rest of the state. Right now, today, there are 12.8 calls per 1,000 residents, and this is up from 12.1 in 1998. So how did CEDAW help address this issue? Well, we know that domestic violence fatalities across the United States, there are approximately 3 every day. San Francisco created a task force under the CEDAW umbrella that was an interagency approach. So they brought all the parties together to the table. They created first respondent teams and trained them and these consisted of like direct service providers, health and human services, law enforcement, is a collaborative approach. Having done so, San Francisco had an unprecedented 44 straight months without a single domestic violence homicide. Trafficking. Because of CEDAW's language prohibiting trafficking and advancing the principles of anti-discrimination, San Francisco adopted a trafficking ordinance and as well as a collaborative against trafficking that involved, again, this interagency approach that included child services, community-based organizations, the schools, the school district, public health. So these are real strategies to tackle some of the problems that plague us right here, even in this community. We often don't see that, but we know from other forums that we've had that trafficking does happen in Ventura County. All right, so what's basically required? What's the requirement of the city to make this happen, or the county to make this happen? What's required is a gender analysis. So it's a study that analyzes the services. It comes from the city budget, and it integrates gender considerations across the board. Funding. This is always the big question. So municipalities, they say, should allocate around 10 to 25 cents per woman resident, which, you know, it doesn't seem like a lot, but funding is always a challenge. So just to talk a moment about funding, it's important to know that this funding comes from within the city. This is a part of the budget, and it's something to look at in the context of you're having an impact down the line. So we know that domestic violence costs, it's expensive. We know that economic injustice costs us in the form of poverty, in the form of homelessness. So anything we can do to level the playing field is certainly a wise investment. That stated, these numbers come from rough numbers from San Francisco, and this is a part of the process when the city is determining what this looks like. So the exploratory process through the workshops and understanding how best to implement CEDAW in their community. And then there's an oversight body. So this is also this whole idea of oversight. The funding incorporates all of this. So the oversight is a collaborative effort. Once again, it's community, government leaders, and they oversee the implementation and the local action plan. So finally, here tonight, for the sake of this discussion, what we're hoping that you will take away is that this is something that really should be explored at the local level. And we're hoping that you'll get on board and get involved. We also have a Tri-County CEDAW Facebook page that you can go to. And I'll give you a handout at the end of the evening you can take, and it has some of the outcomes on the back that have been seen by other cities. And also, it has a link to some resources on the front so that you can explore more, get educated. Obviously, it's hard to talk about this without getting the facts. So I would encourage you to do that. And then finally, encourage our local representatives to support a city and county CEDAW ordinance.